you think as us as humans, you know, uh, have the resilience to absorb this, big shark that is coming at us, the big change, the big disruption?
I mean, you see, this is where this is not a one, so it's a we. We really have to start thinking about we, the humanity, right? Because there's social implication, there's economic implication, there's a geopolitical implication. And I think if we look at AI as a race to who goes, there faster, we will be in trouble. I honestly believe that because think about pure economic sense. We'll start there. If all of us now somehow replaced with lots of automation, there has to be an economic impact because people are the one who buys things and holds up the economy. So if white collar job, a blue collar job, and all sorts of jobs are somehow replaced, I don't know how economy survives. I mean, we keep talking about base income model. Here in the U.S., people started talking about the base income mechanism where government subsidize individuals' needs. But then you can start thinking about that. Well, then what is our purpose? I mean, we have to. Humanity requires purpose. We are driven by doing something that's meaningful, and that meaning comes from rewards. And usually that rewards is based on the work. You work harder, you get rewarded financially, and you get to move up or whatever. You need all those things, and if it all is replaced, I'm not sure we're there to absorb all that, right? So there's that, right? And then there's that aspect that, well, I'm talking about global context, not just a particular country context. If you look at the key players that are driving, at least on the generative AI side, and also self-evolving AI side, is handful of vendors. So is it really going to be like a us versus them situation where handful of people just have all the power and the economic gain, and rest of the population are kind of at the mercy of these big vendors? I don't know. So these are, and then there's the geopolitical element where you're seeing China versus US versus all other global population. So there's a lot of complexity, and so how can we observe is when we start having these global dialogue like the one we're having right now, regardless of your location and your job and your belief system, you start having this conversation. Because at the end of the day, if humanity doesn't survive, then what is all this technology going to do? Who is it for anyway? If it's created by us, it should to transcend us, not transcend the technology, right? So that's where I stand.
Thank you very much. And that's very interesting. And I would like really to build on that. And from a strategic level perspective, we're seeing decisions being influenced and sometimes driven by intelligent systems. So how do you see, AI changing the nature of decision making at the leadership level?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people, meaning leaders. They're not at all aware of where technology is, but there are a whole bunch of other leaders who are very much aware of technology, and they're beginning to use technology heavily, right? So where it gets dicey is because the decision making is now this intelligent system is telling you exactly where things are and who to go after in the form of customer targeting or whatever the case may be, or how do you exist in a supply chain model, or how do you do forecasting, et cetera. You're almost People are getting almost complacent, and they're not really putting. We wrote a piece around middle management. I mean, middle management are the one who are supposed to hold it together in terms of the institutional knowledge and putting checks and balance and making sure the decisions are ethical. So it's an inflection point. If the leaders keep, depending on system, intelligent system, and breaks the human system that actually are supposed to uphold what's good for humanity as a whole, meaning single, simple business decision, like should a patient be approved of a particular claim or not. That has a serious impact on at a personal level, but that also has a serious impact on an organization, because that's the organization philosophy that you're portraying to your customer base, right? So how much do you really care about the customer? So, and that could actually dilute your brand and have a major business impact, because your customer may just in the short term, they may just say, really, the people we are doing business with really doesn't care about us, right? So it's a very, the leaders that are going to survive, and I think ultimately going to thrive, are the one who's going to consider these things deliberately, mindfully, and with intention, and and not just focus on the short-term gain. The short-term gain, focusing on efficiency, is, in my humble opinion, is not the way to go. And if you look at the most surviving organization on the planet, they focus on the long term, and they have a altruistic motivation of impacting humanity as a whole. So it becomes very philosophical, conversation. And I think that most of the leaders will also need to develop a lot of this philosophical, ethical, skill set or mentality that forces them to think that you wouldn't have to think, maybe 3 years ago or even 2 years ago.